Welcome back to another Step in Step session, fellas. Now let's start. Let's start in classic Step in Step fashion with a good old question. What do you do when you know what others expect? Any ideas? Yeah.
You whoop them.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
You expect them to know what you're expecting, so therefore you do the opposite of what they're expecting you to do.
Very nice.
If it goes further down, then you do the opposite of what they're expecting you to do. So
Nice. That's a good idea. Yeah.
It depends, but you mostly do what they expect.
You do what they expect.
because they're not expecting that.
It depends.
That's fair. That's a good idea. All right.
Are they expecting you expect?
Let's see this, guys. What if, I want you to picture this, okay? The police make two unrelated arrests on the same day. A gentleman named Goggins is arrested for buying illegal boats and logs to carry, and a gentleman named Mickael is caught for selling illegal boats and logs. By the way, the name is completely coincidental. I'm as surprised as you are. So, now, both are brought to the police station separately, okay? They're each told that they face a 2-year sentence for boats and logs dealing, right? Now, the district attorney, he separately speaks with Mickael and separately speaks with Goggins. Now, he suspects that they may be involved in, a major armed robbery that happened at the gym recently, right? So he only has a suspicion, right? He has no hard evidence. So he proposes a deal to incentivize them to confess against each other, right? Keep in mind that they can't communicate between themselves, right? And they can't communicate beforehand. So the deal is, if one confesses and the other doesn't, the confessor gets 1 year and the other gets 10 years, okay? If they both confess, they both get 3 years. And if they both deny that they did it, well, they each get 2 years for boat and logs dealing, okay? So what should Mickael and Goggins do between these options? Yeah.
They should both deny.
Perhaps.
But they're going to expect the other person to deny. So the first person is going to accept it, say yes, and then they're both going to say yes.
So they should both escape from prison with David
Goggins.
Goggins and Mickael's incredible strength.
Of course, absolutely. That's another idea. Now, obviously, Arturo pointed out the globally optimal scenario here is that they both deny the robbery, right? But due to lack of loyalty or lack of trust, they might rationally choose to confess, right? So let's take a look at the different scenarios that could happen, right? What are they? First one, if Mickael and Goggins both confess, they get 3 years each, okay? If Mickael confesses and Goggins denies, Mickael gets 1 year, Goggins gets 10, okay? If Goggins confesses, Mickael denies, Goggins gets 1 year, Mickael gets 10 years, okay? And if they both deny, they both get 2 years. So the globally optimal scenario is that they both deny, okay? But you could also argue that they both should confess, right? Because that would be 3 years each, right? And each guy's decision to confess leads to a less severe outcome than denying, right? Because if they deny, they might get 10 years, right? So you might say it's less risky to just confess and get 3 years in any case. So today, we're going to be diving into precisely this art. No, hang on. whatever. All right, we're going to precisely be dealing. Comment je?
But is it just a theory?
We're going to be dealing with this art of strategy. We're going to be dealing with, drum roll please, the Nash Equilibrium. The Nash Equilibrium, fellas. Now, does anyone know the name of this scenario that we just looked at 2 minutes ago?
It's the
Prisoner's Dilemma. Thank you. So, Prisoner's Dilemma, or in our case, the two really jacked guys. Anyway, so based on this, what do y'all think the Nash Equilibrium could be?
The same thing but in Nashville where things are worse.
No, that'd be the Nashville.
That's fair, yeah? Arturo?
Maybe it's like an equation to see what people would choose if they're giving options.
Close. You're getting there, yeah? Any ideas here?
A fun family game.
Okay.
Excuse me? Of course.
Sure.
It's like Monopoly. But
So, anyway, has anyone heard or seen of the movie A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe, the guy that plays Gladiator?
Nope.
No?
No.
Great movie. I think
Have
won the
you?
Oscars and stuff. Yeah, it has. Great movie.
Oh.
Anyway, so it's a true story about this guy, John Nash. John Nash, this genius in the late 20th century. He also happened to be kind of crazy, right? But I mean, that's the price you got to pay for being a genius
Aren't we all?
and literally winning the Nobel Prize. So he pretty much invented a whole field of economics and political science, right? While just sitting in his college dorm and, Well, I mean, the choice was either inventing a new economic theory or going to frat parties. So, the choice was clear.
Go to the
And
frat party.
so the Nash equilibrium, right? This is a way to define the solution of a non-cooperative game that involves two or more players. Okay? So what are some non-cooperative games that y'all have heard of?
Monopoly.
Chess.
Chess? That's
Monopoly can be cooperative.
yeah, like
Would you be
fiction.
Monopoly?
No, Monopoly generally no, but the Monopoly is based on chance as well. So it's
Go.
kind of different. Go, absolutely. Chess, go. These are the best.
Risk.
Most
Risk.
Oh, no, so there's still chance.
Risk.
chance.
Risk is yeah,
Chess.
it's die.
It's
Yeah.
still
Diplomacy
a
is
chance,
not
but
chance.
every game has some
Diplomacy.
form of chance.
Excuse me? Diplomacy. I love that game.
Oh yeah, that game's
They
great.
created Google DeepMind created an AI that can beat anyone in diplomacy. Anyway, so yeah, those are some great examples. Chess, Go. These are the examples that we usually use, right? So picture yourself in a situation where you're making a decision, right? And so is someone else. Okay? Your decision affects theirs, and theirs affects yours. This is where the magic of the Nash equilibrium comes in. So what exactly is the Nash equilibrium? Well, it's kind of an agreement point. Right? It's not about negotiation or cooperation, though. Instead, it's a condition where every single player involved in a decision-making scenario has chosen their strategy. Right? They made their decision, and no one can actually benefit by changing their strategy. Am I clear? No?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, it's saying everyone is making the best decision they possibly can, considering the choices of others. Okay? It's like everyone's saying, well, given what the other's doing, I'm doing the best I can. Yeah,
But if you don't know what the other person is doing.
exactly. That's the whole point. You can only guess or presume what the other person is doing, right? It's a non-cooperative game. You're not going to cooperate about it. So each player is assumed to, know the different possibilities that the other player has. In the game of chess, you know that he can either do this or do that, etc. Right? And no one has anything to gain by changing their own strategy. If each player's chosen a strategy, an action plan based on what has happened so far in the game. Okay. For example, if you're in the 11th ply in chess, well, you look at the 10 previous plies and say, well, that's what happened. Based on this, what can I do that's best? Okay. So essentially, one's own expected payoff by changing one's strategy is 0. Expected payoff. Have you guys heard of that term?
Yeah.
It's your economics. Okay. Game theory and economics, hand in hand, same thing pretty much. And it's essentially saying the expected payoff. What is the reward that you expect to have given an action that you're doing? And you're saying here, I have my strategy, you have yours. If I change mine, I'm gonna have an expected payoff of 0, which means I should
Not change it.
not change, stick to it. You should stick to it. So, can you think of a situation where your decision is actually influenced by what others decide?
The entirety of life.
Sure. Entirety of life. Any other ideas? Daily things that you, yeah.
What sandwich to get at a vet shop?
Now, how is that influenced by the decision of others?
Well, if everybody is choosing to have the saucisson.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
What do you eat at lunch?
Yeah, exactly. What do you eat at lunch? Things that are
My grades.
Your grades, are they? Oh, perhaps, teacher, but you also have influence over it, right? But those are great examples, right? You have things like choosing a route to avoid traffic in the morning, right? Or deciding, which group to join for a group project, things like that, right? Now, let's get into the real stuff here. Who has heard of game theory? Game theory. You never
Their
heard of
intro song is
Never?
amazing.
Ah.
Same thing. So, even better if you haven't heard of it. Because game theory, right? It's a study of strategic decision making. It's used in games, right? Because games are the most easy way to model these interactions, right? In these games, players can choose strategies to maximize their payoffs, right? Now, the Nash equilibrium occurs when players reach a state where their strategies are the best responses to each other. Keep in mind, these are responses. It is an action and a reaction. It's not just me doing my own thing. No, it's you doing your thing, and then I respond based on that, okay? It's like reaching a standoff in a game where no player can win more by changing their move, as long as everyone else keeps their moves the same, okay? Now, it's really important to understand how entities make decisions in an environment where the outcomes depend not just on their own decisions, but also on the decisions of others, right? You mentioned this is how life works. It's not just you, deciding, what to do. No, there are things that are imposed to you. There are rules. There are other players in the game. Okay. Now, now I want you all to tell me some examples of a real life scenario where everyone actually sticking to their own strategy leads to a suboptimal outcome for the group. Any ideas? Yeah.
In negotiations.
Tell me, give me an example.
If everybody sticks to their own negotiations, then there will be no concessions. You won't reach an accord.
That's fair.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe not reaching an accord is better than giving more.
Sure, you already said it? That's a very interesting point. You said that, you can say it.
Not reaching an accord might be better than doing an accord, but that's not good for you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nothing can be better
if you
than
sign
bad.
a treaty where you did not totally destroy Germany.
Sure, okay. Well, this example of negotiation is adequate, right? But not really, because negotiations, you're not on the same team, right? It's not a group project. It's still a non-cooperative game. I'm talking about a cooperative game, a group project, okay? If I do my own thing and you do your own thing, etc., what is the scenario? Yeah.
Well, an English presentation. If you all do completely separate things, you don't know how to segue into another thing. And if the teacher asks you a question on somebody else's topic,
Yeah.
you have no idea what to answer.
Yeah, I wonder who you got this question for that.
Oh, I have no idea.
No, that's fair. That's a very adequate point, right? You have to know what the other people in your team are doing in order to decide your action. Okay. Now, once again, like in chess, like in Go, like in all these different games. Now, to put it simply, right? In a Nash Equilibrium, every player's decision is optimal, right? Given the decisions of other players. Given that in the English project you chose to go first or second or do this theme or that theme, I know what my action should be to maximize not only my gain, my payoff, but that of the group. Okay? So, yeah, if any player tried to change their strategy, well, simply they wouldn't gain anything from it, right? So, what are some applications in real world, daily things that y'all can think of this dynamic in economics, in politics, everyday life, things like that? Yeah.
On the trading markets,
Absolutely.
because the price of a share depends on the client, the buyers.
Yeah. Great example. You're reaching an accord with people that are not necessarily on your side. But at the end of the day, that action is the best for you and for them. Not or, and. Okay? Cool. Now, in particular, right, this is about strategy. Okay? Now, let's first look at in economics. In economics, the Nash Equilibrium really helps to explain behaviors and competition strategies, right? For instance, in a market with oligopolies, right, where a few firms dominate. Are you guys familiar with this term, oligopoly?
No.
It's like monopoly, mono, one. Oligo is like multiple. So it's like a monopoly, but instead of one person entity that dominates, it's multiple.
It's an oligarchy of the market.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah,
Basically capitalism.
each firm's pricing strategy will reach a Nash equilibrium at the end of the day, right? Where the firm can benefit from changing prices, right? In a market with a few competitors, what does a company ought to do? Say
Outcompete the other competitors to have the market share.
what does that mean? What does that mean? Say I have a product, I have a concrete, tangible product. How do I price it?
Lower than the others.
Thank you. You just price it lower, okay? You price it lower. If your other competitors, what do they have to do? They have to follow, or they get left behind. They die, okay? Now, this, if you continuously, you lower it and they lower it, etc., you're going to go down a rabbit hole, and at the end of the day, there's going to be no real advantage to anyone. That is a Nash equilibrium in action here, okay? Now, because in market dynamics, the decisions of different actors, they affect each other, right? If I'm a company and you're my competitor, my decisions will directly have an impact on you, okay? And say, for example, I'm a car company, right? I use a particular material to make my car. Well, the decision of the company that produces those materials will impact me directly, and hence will impact my clients, my competitors, etc. It's a competitive game, competitive market, right? So, in international relations, right? You talked about negotiations. This is a Nash equilibrium every single day, right? Because, it essentially means that you have treaties, right? And you don't want the treaties to be unstable. You don't want them to be chaotic. You want them to be stable and actually reach something that's good for me, good for you. It's a win-win. That is what a Nash equilibrium is about. In biology, you actually also have that because you have different species, right? Evolution, that are competing against each other. what can one species do that will not only help it, but help the environment as a whole? That is what it should pursue, okay? And it's important that the Nash Equilibrium doesn't just mean the overall best action for all involved. You get what I'm saying? It actually means it's a stable state. It is a stable state where no individual can actually do better by unilaterally changing their strategy. Okay? So you've reached this point, you've done your action and my action, etc., and we reach this stable state where I have no incentive to move, you have no incentive to move, so why should anyone move? Well, the answer is we shouldn't. We have reached an equilibrium, a stability point, where we're good. We're all right. We don't need to move anymore. That's essentially what the Nash Equilibrium is about, right? And sometimes, right, it doesn't lead to the best collective outcome. We've seen this with some cases like the prisoner's dilemma, right? Prisoner's dilemma, some players can end up in a worse situation than if they had cooperated, even though they are following a logically sound strategy. The Nash Equilibrium doesn't mean that everyone wins. It means no one can do better individually by changing their strategy, okay? No, not yet. And so, yeah, the Nash Equilibrium here, it's really important to note that it doesn't always lead to a global win, but it will lead to a local win, okay? So, there's this thing called a self-optimizing strategy. 3 key words there. What do you guys think this is about? Self-optimizing strategy. Yeah.
Well, to do the strategy that is best for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Self-optimizing strategy. You optimize your strategy for yourself, not for other players. Okay? Sure. And there's another keyword that I want you to note here in the Nash Equilibrium, which is actually in the name. Nash Equilibrium. What's another word for equilibrium?
An equation.
Sorry?
An equation. No.
Inequality?
Yeah.
Not really. What do you say?
Balance.
Balance. Stability. Same thing. Equilibrium means that you have reached a stable point. That's really the point that I want to hit home here, okay? It means it's a stable outcome, right? Where the strategies are in balance, okay? It might be an intricate balance, but at the end of the day, it is in balance. You mentioned treaties earlier in international relations. Well, these are a point of delicate balance, okay? If I invade that tiny parcel of land, the whole deal may fall apart, not just for me, not just for the country I'm invading, but for all the other actors in the committee.
It's an American reference.
What?
American reference.
Absolutely. Well, what are you thinking of in particular?
Oh.
Yeah, all of them,
Oh,
pretty
yes.
much. Yeah, that's geopolitics for you, okay? So now, in particular, okay, for you, have you guys ever been in a situation where your decision, or changing your decision, would not have benefited you because it depended on someone else's decision? Yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Oh, well, during History Club.
Really?
These past couple of weeks, we've been doing like a Treaty
MUN?
of Versailles.
Yeah.
B2.
An MUN, yeah.
You're doing an MUN in history?
It's pretty much an MUN, yeah. Absolutely. Any other ideas? It could be a daily thing, right? Where you have no incentive to change what you're doing because your decisions depend on what someone else is doing as well, not just you.
Riding the bus or walking.
Yeah, absolutely. You can have other people walking or taking the bus that can make the place congested. You don't know about that. That's a fair point, right? People usually say, oh, work hard, things like that. It's not necessarily true, okay? Because you might work hard, but there might be another guy working less hard, but who's working on the right thing to do, or he's working smart, things like that, right? It's not just about the amount of effort that you put in. It's also about other people around the world, what they're doing. Say I'm working, I don't know, day and night for a cure for cancer. Okay? Well, sure, I might be working day and night. I might be doing every single decision possible to get me closer to that goal. But there might be some guy in mainland China, just like, for somehow he I don't know, he fell on the floor, hit his head, and just somehow has an epiphany for the cure of cancer. Now, he might get there first, before me, even though I did everything I could to get there, okay? Now, it's a race, but it's not like a usual race. In a usual race, I run, the faster I run, the better I'll be, that's it, okay? No, this is a race where other people can hold you down. They can tug on your shorts, okay? That's the real world, how it works here. All right, now, may the best man win. What can that mean, guys? Your turn. Or what? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no.
Okay, your turn. So, what I want to do here, I want to do a prisoner's dilemma tournament game.
Ooh.
Okay? So, we're gonna have, first of all, actually, I have my own ideas, but I want to hear your ideas on different scenarios. Now, scenarios for what? For example, imagine if it's two friends, okay, that decide between two movies to watch, okay? Now, if they both secretly write down the same movie, they can watch it, but if they choose differently, then they have to do, I don't know, 10 push-ups or something, okay?
It's not a punishment.
All right, sure, okay, buddy. So, things like that. Or, for example, what's up? You have an idea? Okay. Or for example, actually, I'll keep it.
If we put it on the different things, we get shot in the head.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, things like that. Okay. Can we have two volunteers? Arturo, come on up. Virgil, come on up.